Skillset, Toolset, Mindset. This is known in some circles as the combat triad, or the self-defense triad, or things like that. And basically what it says is that in order to successfully defend yourself, you need all three. You need the tool set. You know, you need the Glock or the knife or the fist or something. And we understand that as Americans. We need the skill set. You need to be able to use what you have. And then you need the mindset to properly employ these things. And it goes deeper, and people pontificate on it back and forth on the internet because it's easy to do. And, you know, a lot of people, it's kind of like Colonel Cooper's color code of awareness that he put out years ago, decades ago. And a lot of people would quote that over and over, you know, condition yellow, condition orange. And some of them knew what they were talking about, some of them didn't. But it didn't stop people from talking about it. It's kind of the same with this combat triad. You know, Americans do have a tendency to focus on the tool set, right? We are consumers by nature. And if you read my book, Survivalist Family, shameless plug, you can get it on Amazon.com. If you read my book, I wrote about people who want to get better at golf. And instead of taking more lessons to get better at golf, what they'll do is they'll go out and they'll buy the Big Bertha, right? Or they'll buy a different ball or something. And so they want to solve their problems with tools, with stuff. And that's not good. And so we've got the tool set that Americans focus on, which is why the gun industry is doing so well. I mean, why do you need another gun? You know, you have 12, or, you know, whatever. You know, you need this little piece of gear to go on your M4, or, yah forbid, you know, I'm going to turn my AK into an M4 and put all these gadgets and gadgets on it. Whatever, man. It's the American fascination with the tool set, with toys, with stuff. But we need skills, right? That's a little bit harder to develop, skill set. That requires that I step outside of my living room, you know, or step outside of the range that I go to on weekends with my buddies, where I sit at that table and shoot rounds, you know, in a very controlled environment. It requires that I spend money, you know, maybe money you don't have. Sometimes. I train a lot of people for free. But whatever, it requires you to do more than just go buy stuff to develop the skill set. And then the mindset, right? You have to have the mindset to properly employ the tools you have. It does you no good to have a Glock and have been to 18 combat pistol courses if you don't have the mindset that I'm actually going to pull the trigger when I need to. And I submit to you that you also need the mindset to train and to develop your skill set. And now a lot of people pontificate back and forth, I guess I'm one of them right now, about which one's more important, and everybody defaults to mindset. Without the mindset, all the other ones fall apart. Well, guys, it's a triad. You know, you need all three. It doesn't do any good at all if I have the mindset and I don't have a tool to defend myself. Well, you could use your fist. That's a tool. Okay, and so it's a triad, and you need all three. And that takes me to the word. You know, we can read in James that faith without works is dead. And that means if it's a dead faith, it's not a real faith, right? So faith is not faith if it doesn't have works to go with it. And what is faith? Mindset. You know, if we're putting it in the context of the triad that I'm talking about, faith is a mindset. And so real faith, real mindset is demonstrated by actions. And a lot of us are lying to ourselves. A lot of us tell ourselves that we're good to go because we're sitting on these supplies, and I've read these books, or I've watched Pastor Joe's videos, or, you know, I've taken a course or something. And we tell ourselves we're good to go, but our works, our actions really don't demonstrate that. And let me give you an example. Fitness. There's a guy on the internet who has a blog, and I wish I could remember it. I've read it a couple times, but not a lot. He's a been there, done that guy. You know, he's military and been to Iraq as a contractor or something. And anyway, I read about his blog post on another forum, and he basically said, when the revolution comes, have you noticed a lot of people are talking about that? When the revolution comes, there's only going to be two sides, you know, us and the forces of evil. And all you fat survivalists, we're going to come take your food. Okay, well, that got people all upset, and they're all talking about it, and yada, yada, yada. And, you know, they're all focusing on the food aspect. You know, he's going to come take our food. He thinks he's going to take my food. I got another thing for him. I think what triggered so much outrage, yeah, probably a bit of it was somebody thinks they're going to take their stuff, all right? But I think another part was calling people fat. We are fat as a people. We are fat. I've done a lot of training. I've conducted a lot of training, you know, given training, and I've participated in a lot of training with a lot of people. And the guys that make me scratch my head, I've scratched it so much I have no hair. The guys that make me scratch my head are, I'm going to use the word, fat. The fat guys who are on the range, and they can draw and shoot pretty good, you know, and clean the rack or hit the targets or whatever, or they do their little IPSC or IDPA shoot, you know, where, you know, they've got to run all of about 10 yards in the course of fire. But these guys couldn't run out to the parking lot carrying their gear, right? And they think that because they have the tool set, they've got good guns, they have the skill set, they can clean the rack really fast, that they're good to go. They're not. They're fooling themselves if they think that they're going to enter a fight with the level of physical fitness that some of those people display. Because at the end of the day, your tool set is just a tool set. You know, you're bringing you to the fight. And fitness is something that people don't like to talk about in America. A lot of people. Some of you are exceptionally fit. You know, some of you guys are CrossFitters or whatever, and that's cool. But a lot of us are not. And it's an indicator of our mindset. We tend to focus as a people on our positives and minimize our negatives. And so when we develop our own scenarios for what we're trying to prepare for, we do that. We focus on what we're good at, and we ignore what we're bad at. And so we have these fantasies where we think, you know, I'm going to hole up in my house and I've got 8 months worth of food and, you know, 1,000 rounds of ammo for my main battle rifle, and I'm going to let all the riffraff fight it out and yada, 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 and I'm just going to hang out there. Okay. What if your house burns down? Yep. Well, I don't like thinking about that because all my stuff's there. It's the same thing when I talk to people about you need to develop a bug out plan. I don't care where you live. And people always come back with excuses. Always. Oh, blah, 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 blah. You know why? Because they can't, it hurts their head to think about having to leave everything they've prepared right there in their little place and go somewhere else. And they don't like thinking about that, so they don't. Okay? So we need to be careful about our mindset, and we need to understand that our mindset, our true mindset, is observable by our actions. Same thing spiritually. Right? By their fruits you shall know them. You can talk a big game. How do you act? You know, how do you act when you're under stress? How do you act when you back your car into somebody's pickup truck in the middle of the night somewhere? What do you do at that point? Do you run away and hide, or do you do the right thing and man up? You know, things like that happen. So, skill set, tool set, mindset. I want you to really take a look at your own mindset. I want you to pull it apart a little bit and evaluate what is your true mindset. Not what is your fantasy mindset, but what are your actions showing. Are you planning to walk out in the second Exodus? When was the last time you walked 10 miles? When was the last time you walked 20? When was the last time you walked 2? You know? Pushing your hand cart. There's a person who's pretty big in some circles who talks about, you know, in the second Exodus, we're all going to push these hand carts, you know, kind of like the Mormon hand cart, which was a cool idea. Back then, those people were a lot more fit than we are today. You're going to push this hand cart with this 1,000 pounds of gear in it, you know, for days and days and months and, you know, and until we get there, right? And this guy couldn't push a hand cart across a cow pasture. I mean, you know, come on. Really? If that's your mindset that you say you have, take a look in the mirror. Take a look at your actions. If you think you're going to have to walk somewhere, you ought to be walking. You ought to be able to walk. If you think you're going to survive chaos, you might want to try and really think what that's going to be like, and then practice some of that stuff. You know, practice having to run and dash through buildings if you live in a city, or climb over walls, or, you know, whatever. But physical fitness is important. And if you don't have physical fitness, you know, you have bad knees that are, whatever, and you can't do it. Is that really the case? Or are you making excuses for yourself? There's people who have lost limbs overseas in our current fights that we're in. And, that's traumatic, right? They've lost legs. They've lost arms. And some of these people are doing awesomely. Despite that, they're climbing mountains, they're going fishing, they're competing in marathons. And some of us complain about, well, my knees they hurt. What's your mindset? What's your spiritual mindset? You're a believer? Cool. The demons believe there is one God and they tremble. Right? Being a believer is not enough. How are you acting on that? What's your life look like? What are you doing? What's your daily round look like? How do you structure your day? How we spend our time is a really good indicator of who we are and what we truly believe. Skill set, tool set, mindset. Think about those things, and I hope I see you out there.